Hello, ladies. This is Ines O'Donovan from day 2 of the 19th Anti-Aging, Aesthetic and Anti-Aging Medicine World Congress in Monaco. So the top 3 things that I want to talk a little bit more about with you, where I want to share some tips, are related to being lazy as you age. I mean, we all want to age well, right? So you want to age well, you want to have a sharp brain, you want to feel amazing in your body, you want to just be at your very best. But at the same time, it can take so much time and so much effort. And who wants that? So what are ways to actually basically do aging, healthy aging, the lazy way? Basically, on day 2, the 3 things that came to my mind, even though one of them is not really related as much to the lazy aging. But number 1, I was listening particularly to the Italian team that was talking about hormesis. And I tell you in a little moment what it is. It sounds much more complicated than it actually is. So then topic 2, I want to talk a little bit about magnetism and about how you can use magnetic waves basically in order to be super lazy, to build your body and to lose fat. And then third, I do want to talk about what the German team shared. And that goes from the past, for what's the history of aging, anti-aging, to the future. Okay, but let's dive in. Number 1, hormesis for healthy aging. What is hormesis? So you probably know, or you surely know, that Italy is known for having one of the blue zones. And this means they have a lot of centenarians who age extremely well. So this is being researched there. And one of the reasons might well be hormesis. So hormesis is really a way to say that depending on a dose, the effect can be positive or negative. And like if you think about if you think, for instance, about the example of stress, it's like if you have no stress, then there's no activation of the body. So you're just lazy, super lazy, you're just hanging around. Then if you have a lot of stress, it gets to a point where you're first very, very focused. You get a lot of stuff done. But then if that continues, then it gets to the point where you're exhausted, where you lose your energy. And that's very similar basically to the idea in a way of hormesis. And or the same is with alcohol. If you drink too much alcohol, then that's not so good in the long term, right? But if you drink a small dose, so dose dependent, if you drink a small dose of alcohol, there's actually research that shows that you live longer than not drinking any alcohol or drinking too much. So it's a small dose of something that basically challenges your body. And that's why we're talking about hormetins. And I'm not 100% sure if the word is actually pronounced like that. But hormetins then are small doses that help you to challenge the body in order to strengthen it in the long term. Little stress, big effect. And we know that from biofinesse or from biohacking, when we often talk, or also from drugs, theoretically anyway, where we talk about a minimum effective dose. That's kind of basically goes in the same line. But so when you actually use hormetins in relation to aging, what the Italian team has shared was that you actually can reduce inflammation in your body, inflammaging, because yes, inflammation actually lets you age quicker. So the term used most of the time by now is inflammaging. Your immunity goes up, your frailty, which is one of the very traditional biomarkers of aging, your frailty goes down because you actually create better muscles. And when you have better muscles, when you can use them much more effectively, then also disabilities tend to go down. You have less fat, and also age-related diseases tend to go down if you just use small stresses to your body. But okay, what are those small stresses? What are those hormetins? What are things that you can do right away? So one of the things that, no surprise, is intermittent fasting. So there has been a lot of talk about intermittent fasting over the last probably 2 years especially. And there's more and more research that shows how effective it can actually be. And you do not even have to do it every day. It's small things, small changes, small challenges or meetings that will, yes, challenge your body for a moment, but then it gives your body an opportunity to become stronger. So intermittent fasting and also caloric restriction, so eating less calories. In general, nutrition can be a very powerful hormetin, and even just using some spices in your food can be a small challenge, can be a hormetin, and can be used in order to have a positive effect. You can use nutrients, you can use minerals, zinc, etc. So these are all hormetins that help you to strengthen your body in the long term. Then, of course, physical exercise. Do not forget physical exercise. You do need to challenge your body. You cannot sit in your chair the whole day long and just stare at your computer. It's not good for your body and for healthy aging. So, just like I personally, and this is one of the types of exercise shown, I personally like high intensity interval training. Or there are different variations at the stage where you not go out fully, because that can be damaging to the heart, but where you reach certain extent, super short, and then you go back. So the whole idea of high intensity interval training is definitely also seen as a hormetin. And then use hot and cold therapy. So think about going to the sauna, then going into an ice bath. Might be a bit extreme for you when you're only starting out, but take a cold shower in the morning and start even with a few seconds. Build up a little bit over time. So just that little bit of stress, and it's really a mind thing. A cold shower is a mind thing. And if you distract yourself by, for instance, listening to music, dancing under the shower, that doesn't feel as bad. So hormetins don't have to feel bad. It's really challenge, effect, challenge, effect, challenge, strengthen, challenge, strengthen, challenge, strengthen. And with that, you are building the resilience of your body and of your mind. But don't forget that after each challenge, you also need to give your body an opportunity to actually strengthen. It's like it is with sport. If you constantly challenge your muscle and don't give your muscle the opportunity to grow, then you're wasting your time and actually you're doing something negative. So small things done intensively, potentially at this time, but then give your body a rest. Super important. And it has to be done daily. Sorry. And you don't have to do an awful lot, just small things. But it is consistency that actually helps your body. Okay, so that was topic number 1, hormesis. And another lazy way of aging very well is actually using electromagnetic waves in order to build muscle. Yes, it is actually possible. Still means you should do some exercise, but it is possible to just lie somewhere on a chair, on a bed, and have devices on you that actually build the muscle for you. So electromagnetic stimulation, functional magnetic stimulation, etc. And or sit on a chair. So there are different ways. There are 2 companies in particular that I saw. I haven't tested both of them yet, only one. But I was looking at Iskra, and there's also the company EM Sculpt, who has a new device called Neo, EM Sculpt Neo. And both use electromagnetic waves, but in a different way, in order to stimulate your muscle and to also, like the EM Sculpt, in order to actually lose fat, because they also use radio frequency, which helps to destroy some of the fat cells. And I did try Iskra. I hope to be able to try EM Sculpt Neo today. We'll see. There's not much time. But when I was using Iskra, it is a bit of shock. You need to be a little bit prepared if you haven't done it before. It's just like when I started, I was like, oh, what's going on in my body? My muscles are vibrating, my muscles are moving, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here. So it's a bit bizarre. But it felt for me, especially after having been walking and sitting a lot during the conference, kind of my lower back was always a little bit of a challenge. So that felt incredibly good. And if you do that regularly, or even you don't actually need to do that often, but if you do that, then basically almost like a Hamilton, then it will build the strength of the muscle. And for me, just a really short time on that chair that I was sitting on actually made my back feel so much better. So I'm already impressed just from that. And there are some studies, or the manufacturer of EM Sculpt Neo says that with their device, they can actually achieve a 30% reduction in fat and 25% muscle growth, which is it's like both of that is massive, with just 4 sessions of 30 minutes each. I mean, it can't get much later than that, right? So that's quite impressive. And it is the lazy woman's, lazy man's way to age well, because like especially muscle is so important for our health and longevity. So let's come to number 3. This is more about the past and the future of anti-aging. And this was shared by the German team. Basically German, not only researchers, but also German expert. Michael Grave was there, who is CEO and founder of Forever Healthy, an organization that actually helps to understand what's going on in the area of aging and longevity, what technologies are actually good, and they're also investing into research and into startups. So that was quite interesting to hear about. But let's take a little bit of a look back, the past of anti-aging medicine, if you want. So according to Peter Kleine-Gunk, the whole idea of anti-aging has a super long history. So basically what he says, it all started with the chapter, How Do I Turn an Old Man into a Young One, in the Papyrus Abers in 1500 BC. So a long time ago. And he mentioned quite a few steps, but I just picked a few that I thought were particularly interesting. Did you know, for instance, that Taoism is actually, at least by Peter Kleine-Gunk, seen as the first anti-aging religion? And basically he points out that when you look at Taoism, it is focused on good breathing, and it, like specifically in relation to staying young, to rejuvenation. So it's focused on good breathing, good eating, good exercising, spirituality, and good sex techniques. Which, yes, I mean, our sex hormones are so important for staying young. Of course, they were more focused at that time on the men. And so they talked, especially, for instance, or what he shared was particularly coitus reservatus as an anti-aging procedure for men. I do not want to share kind of how many women and how many times a night the most effective and really bring you back to young, supposedly. But just the whole idea of that holistic approach is actually really, really meaningful. And it's very good for aging, well, for staying young. So then you probably have heard of the first so-called known victim of anti-aging medicine. So if you haven't, Chinese emperor, and I hope I don't butcher the name too much, Qin Shi Huangdi, he died at the young age of only 49, drinking what he thought was the fountain of youth. And basically what he got was mercury. Of course, today we know that mercury is not a good idea and it actually kills you. But you can try different things, and you can, and to be honest, a lot of that stuff might still be going on. You know, like we're trying things. We have, of course, a much, much better understanding than people could at this time. We can measure so many more things than was possible at this time. So hopefully nobody has to die of any anti-aging approaches. But then again, there is a lot of crackery going on in the industry. So a lot has happened since basically he died of the mercury, and things have been changing a lot, and especially they have been changing. I mean, I've been in this industry. I'm doing this for a while, but especially over the last, probably like over the last 10 years, I've seen a big change happening from like when I was talking about anti-aging, and I still don't like that term, to be honest. Because it's too much focused on external, too much focus on aesthetics. And I believe it has to come from the inside. I prefer the term rejuvenation, but like slowing aging, rejuvenation, because rejuvenation is already really the reversing. And yes, we can do some of that. But as Michael Graf had said, the industry at the moment is growing dramatically. It will be one of the most important, the most lucrative industries in the future. I mean, we already see just even the supplement industry is massive. And when we then actually can show more results of really reversing aging, then the whole world will explode. And it is a really, really profitable, it will be a really, really profitable industry, even though right now it is still challenging to find financing for aging research and also like for companies who are starting up in the space. So a lot needs to happen. A lot of education needs to take place because there's just not enough understanding yet how it really works. There's also the idea that, like, okay, is aging a disease or not? And there are many discussions about that. And it's in itself, it shouldn't really matter. Because, you know, like, yes, when we age, we are more likely to have the diseases. Or are then the diseases leading to more aging? So it's a vicious cycle in a way. But the declaration, if aging is a disease, is important because that might be a way in order to secure more funding in the future. So I think that is really where the crux is with declaring aging as a disease or not. So funding, as I said, is absolutely important. Funding of research, funding of startups who try things, who bring stuff out, who give you an opportunity to test things that will actually help you to age quicker, not to age quicker, to age slower and to actually reverse aging. And also what's really needed is that risk assessment and the risk management, because we do not want to experience like that Chinese emperor approaches, tools, devices, drugs, etc., that actually kill us. So a risk assessment is crucial. We do need to understand who we can trust and who we can't trust. And the industry is so, even though it's very old, it is quite new in a way that it's not as regulated, it's not as regulated. And I think in a way it is good because that opens up more opportunity to actually do research and to try new things out. Once things become too regulated, then the whole innovation goes away. So it is good, but it is right now at this stage, it's your job and my job to actually find out what is going on in the world and to really try to dive deeper to understand what does it mean for me. Will it help me? So, and this is why I'm doing Genessima magazine. This is why I'm writing my newsletters to you every Friday, with things that I've discovered. That's why I'm constantly looking at research. That's why I'm constantly going to conferences in order to find out what is the latest, how can we compare, what can we potentially try. So when we then look at the future, and again, coming back to the German team here at the AMWC in Monaco on day 2, in the future, we can what Stefan Lorenz Sorgner basically calls cyborgs. He expected we all be cyborgs. He said we already are cyborgs, because for him it's just the idea of basically developing, of learning, even just after you're born, is a way into being a cyborg. I would not define it that way. I kind of like the idea of integrated humans, and I would go a step further, because we've all been learning since humanity exists, before humanity existed. So for me, that's not enough in order to describe the future of us, of humanity. So integrated humans I quite like, because it is a way to say, how can we integrate technology into our lives and into our bodies as well, in order to be at our best, and also to live longer. But the first focus is to be our very best right now, because if we are our best right now, it's likely that we will be better in the future as well. You do need to keep the future in mind, though, because there are a lot of diets, a lot of fitness stuff out there that, yes, they give you short-term benefits. You might look amazing, you might feel amazing in the short term, but in the long term, they actually let you age quicker and they damage your body. So that's why, going back to, you need to do your own research, and that's also why I'm looking at those things and sharing those things. But in the future, yeah, we will be more integrated with, like, we all have most of us have wearables at this stage, like Oura Ring, Garmin watch, different things. The one thing that I had not heard about before, and that I think is pretty cool, is a sensor that you can actually put on your teeth. It's not out yet, seemingly, and there seem to be different companies who have been working on that. But like a sensor that you put on your teeth that will actually detect what you're eating, when you're eating, and probably drinking as well, because that is also super important. But just imagine, it's like, I do want to know what I'm eating. I would love to track that. But I personally am far too lazy. I don't have the time to write everything down. And I find it super boring, to be honest, to write everything down. And I definitely do not take the time to measure all this stuff and then to look at what are all the macro nutrients in it, and it's like how much fat, how much proteins, all this stuff. But I do want to know. So having a sensor that you put on your teeth in order to find out that it automatically measures and tracks what you're eating, I find that fascinating. So that is part of what the future will look like. And I will leave you with that for now. I will be back then on day 3 and to share more news about the world of anti-aging, rejuvenation, and longevity. I wish you a fabulous day. Bye-bye.